You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how even life-threatening situations could be made better with friends. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And for this episode, we're reunited with our pod crush, Ian R. Buck of the Extra Dimension podcast.
Hi.
Welcome back, Ian.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you back. Loyal listener and incredible guest, Ian R. Buck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since the last time we spoke to you?
Oh, gosh. What haven't I been up to? 2020's been a lot, you know?
Yeah, understatement.
Right now, the major thing that I'm dealing with in life is the fact that I'm a teacher and we're all doing distance learning. And so it is very, very different. And ironically, the very next episode of my podcast is going to be about distance learning. And I recorded all of the interviews in August.
Oh, boy.
Yes, and it's coming. I promise.
Didn't you interview John for that?
I did.
That's true. Well, if you enjoy Ian and you also enjoy my husband, then definitely subscribe to Ian's podcast so that way you can get both of them at once. Amazing.
Yep. We won't be on hiatus forever.
I believe you.
There have been some new choices since the last time you were on here, so why don't you give us an update on whether you kill or rewrite the Geth in Legion's mission?
You know, I don't really remember what the choice was that I made like the first time that I ever played through. But like thinking about it now, I think my ideal playthrough would be to rewrite the Geth.
Okay.
Because like rewriting somebody's like consciousness, you know, taking control of their decisions, definitely not okay. But also like the fact that these Geth are enemies only because they were already rewritten by a different entity, like I feel like it's okay to undo that.
Right, you're restoring something that was already there instead of using it for your own means.
Yeah. And then after that, you know, if they decide to still not be my friends, then I guess we're not friends.
That's totally fair. What about the collector base? Do you destroy it or do you give it to the elusive man?
Well, I'm never going to give it to the elusive man.
That's right, you're not.
Never trust that guy.
And what about your romance for Mass Effect 2? Do you stay loyal to your romance from 1 or do you try someone new?
Totally somebody new. Cause yeah, like in Mass Effect 1, of course, you know, like for male Shepard anyway, like Liara and Ashley are the only choices that you have. But then, you know, like as I played through Mass Effect 2, like I found myself growing closer and closer to, oh my God, why am I blanking on her name? This is really embarrassing. The Quarian.
Tally.
Tally, thank you. God. She's a fictional character. It's okay that I don't remember her name. Yeah, like I just found myself like getting along with Tally way better than anybody else who was like on the crew. And there was never anything that I could like really point to that was like, oh yeah, like this element is like what I liked about Tally. It was just like I just liked talking with her, and that seemed like a good basis for a romance.
I mean,
Sure. I mean, it's a place to start for sure.
Sure.
every good romance starts with a good friendship and communication.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought Matt was going to follow up with, and every bad romance starts with.
Yeah. A man who had gotten more sleep might have made a Lady Gaga joke, but unfortunately, my brain is operating at half capacity.
Unfortunately, that's neither of us.
Yeah. I do want to say before we jump into the episode that I've had a little bit of I don't know what to call it, not dysphoria, but this weird dissonance or like molding of worlds because, and this is totally almost barely related to Mass Effect, I started watching West Wing for the first time ever. I never saw it. Mm-hmm. I watched the new voting special that they did for HBO Max with my spouse on her birthday. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I guess I should watch this show that people have talked about forever. And we've been watching it, and Martin Sheen is phenomenal in it. And like he plays a fairly nice person, you know, who gets crossed sometimes, but like you can hear the tone of voice of the elusive man in the performance just when he's charming someone or being nice or being stern with someone. It's just this weird place in my brain where President Bartlett doesn't, like, he exists, but I keep thinking of the elusive man because that's just the role he's played that I've spent the most time with over and over again. And it's just this weird dissonance was the word I was looking for, that I'm experiencing now watching the show, which is great. Of course, surprise, surprise, that show that everyone was raving about a decade ago is actually very good. But I just wanted to share that, as I think it's the first time an actor, besides him being the villain in Spawn, like the work I knew him for was Mass Effect, which is pretty funny.
Well, now you and John can bond over your feelings about the elusive man and President Bartlett.
Excellent. Well, we will do that.
Yeah, I've always been interested in, like, so we mentioned Martin Sheen, right? And like the elusive man, the character model for him kind of loosely resembles Martin Sheen,
Right.
Even in like the mannerisms that he has physically, and it's a very interesting aspect of video games when they get somebody who's well known to voice act. A lot of times they will do that. They'll kind of model the character after that actor, and it's like I can't quite figure out why. Because it's totally not necessary, but it's like it's a thing.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the technology and what they want to do. I mean, remember that.
Miranda.
Oh, now I'm blanking on a character's name.
What you were about to reference?
Yes, thank you. It's like you're in my brain. Yeah, Miranda also looks like the actress who played her. Whereas, like, obviously Jacob does not, and Shepard does not. Either of them.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can make Shepard look like whatever, but the default versions rather. Yeah, it is interesting.
It also kind of like shows you at what different points in like the development cycle people were brought onto the project, because like in order to have this character model for this, that looks like the actor had to have been hired fairly early on in the project, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could also probably design a full body in a 3D model maker without the face itself.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of put it on later. But also, neither of us are game developers, so if there's a developer listening, please tell us how we're wrong and why.
Also, become our friend and maybe come on our podcast.
That too. All right, well, why don't we, if you are ready, MJ, why don't we jump into our summary for this episode?
I was born ready. Now that we're done dicking around, Shepard can finally connect with the diplomats to figure out what they need to do in order to unite the races against the Reapers. Rex, now leading the Krogan people as a whole, uses this as an opportunity to demand a cure for the genophage. He reveals that the Solarians are holding Krogan females, I feel disgusting saying that, on one of their STG facilities. Victus, Shepard, and Rex force the Solarian Dalatras to back down so they can proceed with their alliance. Shepard and Rex arrive on Sur'Kesh, and quickly, things go very wrong. Mordin was Rex's inside Solarian, and only one of the test subjects survived due to compromised immune systems. On top of that, Cerberus chooses now to attack. Shepard and their squad have to work their way through the facility to help Mordin get the Krogan female, later named Eve, safely off of Sur'Kesh.
Yeah, before we dive into the meat of the episode, I will say, being a grown-ass man with, like, having engaged in conversations about sexism and racism and all sorts of other stuff as an adult, Rex and the Solarians constantly referring to the Krogan women as females just makes my skins crawl. It just is not.
It's this Ferengi vibe.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is the Ferengi vibe. And, like, it just hasn't aged well at all.
I absolutely hate it, but I love Eve.
Eve is amazing. And even I don't hate this plot point because I think it's an interesting construction of how to work through the problems that the Krogan have had and even how the women have been treated. It's just every time someone says Krogan females, I hate it.
I hate it so much.
You say that it hasn't aged well, but this game came out in like what, 2013, 2014? Like that sounded icky back then too.
Yes.
No, you're not
agree.
wrong. I think I'm just more aware of it now than I was even back then, probably. But you're not wrong. It absolutely was probably not good then either.
I feel like there was something else I wanted to reference before we got into it, but I don't remember what it was, so it must not have been important.
There is one other thing we should say. We are going to refer to Rex because Rex is alive in our playthrough that we're covering. However,
Oh, that's true.
you as a player may not have Rex here because if Rex died on Vermeer, then you have a different Krogan leader whose name I don't actually know because I've never taken that route ever, because why would you kill Rex?
Yeah.
But that said, it is possible, and so if we're out of alignment on that, just know we're basing it on our playthrough. But please, if you have stories of being with that other Krogan, whoever is in charge with Rex gone, please send that our way or comment or email us because we would like to hear about that experience as well.
I had like the vague memory of the character who replaces Rex somewhere in the back of my head, so I looked it up because it was going to bother me the entire episode if I didn't look it up right now, and it was not Reeve.
Right, Reeve. That sounds correct. And I do feel like I've done it. I must have done it in an All Renegade playthrough, but I don't recall it because it's not the primary action I choose. No matter how renegade I am, that is not a renegade decision I will ever make.
Well, here's the thing with whether Rex lives or dies. Rex living or dying has nothing to do with Paragon or Renegade
Yeah.
as a choice. It has to do with, have you made enough Paragon and Renegade choices to be able to keep him alive, either by bullying him into it or
That's right.
being diplomatic with him.
That's right.
And this is something that's really interesting about Mass Effect 3 is that like most of the main characters, especially the ones from Mass Effect 2, you know, like everybody could have died during the final suicide mission. But like, for example, I think it was the last episode, as of recording time, the last episode that you guys put out was about Jack's mission with you know the
Grissom
Academy.
yeah. And like when I played through, Jack was dead in my playthrough, and so like I didn't even realize that this was like where she would have been in this game. I just played through this mission and like saved some young kids and, you know, cool. But like I didn't realize that was supposed to be an emotional like part of the arc of Jack's story.
Interesting. Yeah. It's easy to miss that. So they don't replace her with a different teacher, like a no-name
They
NPC?
do, but I don't remember anything about them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, because I'm sure it's just a filler thing, because they're anticipating most people are going to try and keep everyone alive. Because
Yeah.
I think that's the case with a lot of the missions. Is like a kind of placeholder characters just there of the same race and gender, voiced by someone else. I think.
Yep. There's actually like 2 opportunities in this particular mission for a character to be subbed out.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get to it. It's fine. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble staying on track because I'm so tired.
No worries. Let's talk check-ins real quick.
Yes, let's roll through some check-ins. Man, these privates who guard the like conference room and the war table and everything, they're very interesting to me. I keep missing one of their names. I only catch Private Westmoreland,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking about how a colony had to be evacuated recently, and you hear so much about how Earth is losing and losing and losing, and you don't hear anything about what the Reapers are losing. And the other private says, well, they don't have colonies. They don't have, like, homeworlds or anything. We can't fight them the way they can fight us. It's a very different experience. I just think they're really interesting. I want to know more about them.
Yeah, I got the conversation you mentioned in the last episode when I went through the laser door, as I call it affectionately, because that's what it is. It's a laser door. They did the conversation with like, oh, I hope we could strike back at those who didn't join us on the summit, and you know, oh yeah, that's a great idea. More war over this war. That's a great idea. You know, so I think because of the order of events of how many times I've gone to the Citadel, maybe that changes.
Yeah.
And because we're kind of out of sync with some of that stuff. Like I just got Donnelly and oh my god, what's the other one's name? The engineers.
Ken and Gabby.
Ken and Gabby. I know it's Donnelly is one of them is the last name, but I don't. Anyway,
I don't
Ken and
remember.
Gabby.
I want to say Rodriguez is her last name, but I could be wrong.
But I got them for the first time and had a conversation with them, and they commented on. Ken commented on Edie's body, which made me want to punch him.
Yes, he's disgusting.
He's gross.
Gabby deserves better.
And so I did that check-in this time around and checked in with Adams about them, which was great. I love Adams. I'm so glad that he's back in this game. You forget how much you miss him.
He's a really good character. He's very tolerant. He's always just like, new alien friend. Yes, this is awesome. He's just 1000% in all the time. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
So I checked in with Joker, and I had an interesting exchange with him. He, first of all, talks about Jack, and he's like, man, that must have been Christmas for her to, like, beat up on some Cerberus soldiers. And he also brings up the biotic issue about how a lot of biotics have experience prejudice in a lot of ways. And you can be surprised. Just be like, I didn't think that you would give a shit about that. And his response is that, well, I can't have them, like, horning in on my disability. Being able to move crap with your mind is not a handicap. It just reminded me of the exchange between Storm and Rogue in X-Men, where Storm is just like, we don't need to be cured, and Rogue is just like, I murder people when I touch them. Yeah. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got the same thing. He's like, yeah, if I sneeze hard enough, my ribs shatter. But they can move stuff with their mind. It's hardly a disability, and it feels like an ableist comment. But he is also someone with a disability, and so I think it's showing frustration from his perspective of these folks who have had, sometimes against their will, had things put in their body that make them do something, which makes them uncomfortable, gives them headaches, makes them struggle. And it's an interesting perspective for Joker to bring up, because it doesn't even occur to me for him to look at it that way.
It's really a conversation of a visible disability versus an invisible disability.
Right.
Because what Joker has definitely makes his life difficult, and nobody can argue that. But with biotics, people will argue that all the time. Sure. That it doesn't make your life difficult. It makes your life so much better because you're so powerful and whatever. But look at Caden, who is going to suffer headaches for the rest of his life, and I think is susceptible to brain damage as a result from a faulty L2 implant.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
And, like, it wasn't his decision.
Nope.
It was something that he was born with, that he developed an aptitude for, and then he had to go to brain camp about it.
Brain camp just reminds me of Psychonauts.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So I think we should keep this kind of discussion about invisible and visible disabilities in mind when talking about Joker and his feelings about biotics.
I agree.
From Edie, we find out that Jack used to try to edit Edie's reports, which was very cute.
That was pretty funny.
As if that would work.
Yep.
Trainer lets us know everyone arrived safely. Kaylee Sanders sent us a very nice email.
Yep.
Garrus had a lot to say.
Yep.
He really cares about children. I'm not surprised, really, because he is a good person and he cares about protecting the innocent, but he gets very intense about, like, protecting the innocence of children.
Yeah, it was... I mean, I'll say I was surprised, because he's never really talked about children of any kind. Also, as we've discussed, a problem with the Mass Effect series is that children don't exist except for humans, and even then they're very rare to actually see. So, like, there are no children in the world, and these kids, while young, are adult-sized. Like, we don't see small children anywhere in the game. And so, like...
Well, we
except
do.
in our dreams.
Right. But... So I was a little surprised, but it was cool. It was nice. It wasn't against his character, so it was like a pleasant surprise, but it made sense as we talked to him more.
It definitely reinforces his status as a heartthrob.
It does. It really does. But I'm going to tell you why I'm not surprised, or why it didn't surprise me that much. During Jack's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2, I brought Garrus and Jack. And every time Garrus saw what the children had been put through, he was increasingly upset.
Mm.
Like, he would make a comment about how horrible it was every time.
I do remember that, yeah.
So, like, I would really like to know if there was a specific trigger for him. Like, did something happen with a child in his past that made him, like, even more protective of them than a normal person would be? Because, like, you want to protect children as a survival instinct.
For sure, yeah.
But it's just very intense.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see. He has a lot of comments about Cerberus and Jack. He had this delightful comment. I wish they had a Grissom Academy for Turians when I was younger. I always wanted to learn how to paint.
it's that is classic Garrus snark. Like, you know, imagining that they just did artsy stuff, right? That's what that was for. It's very funny.
Well, now he mostly paints walls with Reaper blood. It's not the same, but it's a living.
I want to see like an arts and crafts class led by Jack. I want to know what that would look like.
Right?
It would be very chaotic.
It's true.
You would come out of that class covered in paint.
Spray paint and tattoos.
Exactly, right. Well, that's like also Garrus says at one point, he's like, you know, but I also never really paid that much attention to Jack because every time she walked into the room, her tattoos were too loud and I couldn't hear anything.
They gave him a headache.
Yeah, they gave him a headache. And I was like, that's very good.
Such a nerd. Liara just rubs it in that Asari are better in every conceivable way because biotic education is just basic education for Asari.
Because they're all born with it. Yeah.
And it's not Maybelline.
No, exactly. It's not Maybelline. Yeah, it's interesting that, and she sounds a little like stuck up about it, which was irritating.
All Asari are like that.
Yeah, but Liara wasn't always. Like when you talked to her in Mass Effect 1, she was meeker, but like now
she was shiny and new.
Yeah. In 2 and 3 they give her this harder exterior, which I understand why. She's been through a lot, but it's just the tone comes off as a little conceited. Unless
she's doing like a hell of a lot of work to confront her own privilege, like I'm not surprised. You know, we all kind of, you know, without thinking about it, say stuff that comes off as like super conceited, you know, depending on what situation we're in, depending on who we're talking to.
That's true.
I'm going to skip my next note because you only just got Gabby and Kenneth, so you wouldn't have had this conversation. I was very confused when I went to check in on Javik and he wasn't there.
Same, so it wasn't just me. That was very weird, and I thought maybe I'd find him somewhere else on the ship, and then...
Did you not find him?
No.
He was hanging out in Jack's old spot.
Oh, I didn't even look.
He didn't really have anything to say. He was just like reading the past of the room and talking about, the person who used to hang out here was real mad all the time.
Mood.
And he also says something that I feel like is a call out to Garrus. He says, only the foolish mourn the loss of innocence.
Maybe.
And when you just have this conversation with Garrus where he's talking about the loss of innocence and how these children are experiencing war much sooner than like any of them expected.
I mean, I guess they're having him wander the ship so he can do this nonsense and then be stoic about it. and I'm hit or miss on Javik. Like I like Javik as a character, don't get me wrong, but I don't like some of the meta of how they set him up. I just feel like I think it's obvious to say, and we talked about this in our conversation with Josh, that I'm not even going to specify which Josh. You'll figure it out. That he was kind of rushed. Like he might not have been a last minute addition, but how they rolled him out was kind of not well thought out. And I think that shows sometimes in how he delivers lines and how cliche he is sometimes within the game.
He's also an imperialist, and nobody likes that.
That's true. That's true.
I checked in on Allers.
She had just a news report she was reading, and then she didn't have much to say to me.
Did you hear what the news report was?
Yeah, it was about Australia being wiped off the map.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Specifically, Adelaide was destroyed. Yeah. And she just sounded so heartbroken. And I was like, oh, you need a hug. Why won't this game let me hug you?
No hug button. Talked about that in
Let's
the
go up
last
to the
episode.
bar. You need a drink. That's what should go in the remaster.
A hug button?
Yes.
We're going to the bar.
We're going to the bar now. I'm going to buy you a drink and we're going to talk. We're going to talk about our feelings like adults. What a concept. Cortez was just like, I'm really upset about what happened on Grissom. And we're just like, I told you to leave. Yeah, but I didn't like it.
Yeah. Showing his softer side, but it's just funny. It's like, I didn't want to leave. I'm sorry I left. And Shepard
Such a
literally
good
takes
friend.
a tone of like, I told you to. Like, what are you doing? It wasn't your choice. Yeah.
James makes a comment about your girl. So I'd like to
Yeah.
know how that went down for you.
Nothing happens. I was bummed.
Okay, what he said to me specifically was, Jack is a mean son of a bitch, but hot, if you're into that sort of thing.
That's what he said to me
Okay.
too. But Shepard has no comment. Like, Shepard doesn't say anything.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah.
He's talking about your girlfriend.
Apparently Shepard's cool like that. I don't know.
Rude. But James also picked up on the Anderson-Sanders thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a new mom.
Yay, new mom.
I do really want to read that novel that covers
Yeah, I do too.
the mission that they had together. And apparently Saren's involved or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's about when Anderson and Saren first met. I did one nonsensy thing on the Citadel, but we don't have to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't go to the Citadel this time, so I feel like we can circle back next episode.
It was just the Matriarch of Theta stuff.
Oh yeah, I've done that already, but we'll save that for the next
Yeah.
episode.
Okay, cool. Let's go meet with some diplomats.
Yep.
Our favorite pastime.
Just as soon as that cutscene starts. First of all, I don't know about you, but no matter what you're wearing, you show up in your dress blues.
Yes.
Like you just put them on, which I thought was neat. And then,
Well, you're going there in an official capacity to represent all of Earth. You gotta look fancy.
and like within minutes, with Rex just standing there, leaning against the wall, and just running his mouth. I'm like, I missed you. I'm so glad you're here.
How great is it that Rex is leading all Krogan? In the last game, it was just something he was aspiring to, and now he is their official representative.
Yep, he's essentially the Krogan president, more or less.
It's great.
It is great. He deserves it.
I really appreciated Victus's approach of, like, look, I do not have time for drawn-out negotiations. Tell me what you want.
Rex will tell you what he wants, what he really, really wants.
If you want to be his lover, you got to get with his friends. Yeah, well, I like that this executes on something Victus says earlier, that he's not a politician, and that
Yeah.
our shepherds at least were like, yeah, but we need a mission-based, focused, like no-nonsense person. That's why you're perfect. And like this is the execution of that discussion in action.
And honestly, I think that's going to foster the best relationship between Rex and Victus. If Victus is like, look, we're not doing this whole song and dance. You tell me what you want, and I am honest with you about whether I can get it. I have a lot of respect for Victus.
Same.
And now it is time to find a cure for the genophage. That is Rex's demand. It's been 1,476 years since the genophage was enacted. And the Dalatras says it's been 1,000 years of peace. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, the Dalatras here, like every time the Dalatras speaks, there's more nonsense that comes up.
She's the worst.
It's just, yeah, like Rex revealing that they've been holding the Krogan women hostage and like all this other thing. Like, it's like, and yet the Dalatras is still standing on this pillar, like they think that they're doing the right thing. It's just astonishing.
The thing that kills me is that when she says it's been 1,000 years of peace, is that the Solarians did this to them in the first place.
Yeah.
And then, like, stepped away and allowed them to destroy themselves. Like, the Solarians are responsible for the absolute decline the Krogans have gone through, the destruction of their homeworld, the destruction of their culture.
It's interesting to think about this time frame, like 1400 years, in the context of the lifespans of these different species, right? Because like for Solarians, like that is ancient history, because they live like 40,
that's a long time.
40 years or something.
Yeah, about.
Yeah, like Asari, like they live hundreds of years. So, you know, it probably doesn't seem quite as long ago to them. I don't know about Krogan or Turians. I don't.
Krogan are
there.
also hundreds. Turians are human, like human adjacent lifespan.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long time, no matter how you spin it. But like, the different perspectives on this, I'm sure.
Once your lifespan gets to a certain point, time just has a different meaning for you. Because what's the point of worrying about something that happened a year ago when you're going to live for another 500 years? Like,
yeah,
it's just not as much of a concern. It's very different. And it explains quite a bit of why the Asari are the way they are.
Yeah.
It does not explain anything about the Krogan.
No.
I did not remember the footage of the Solarian prison camp.
I didn't remember getting to see that either. And it threw me a little bit.
I was like, where did this come from?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of shocking and aggravating, and like I absolutely backed Rex 100% here, and I did the supportive, like, we're getting this done stuff. Like I took all the Paragon answers, because most of them were like more mostly screw you, we're doing this. And
yeah,
that's how I felt in that moment.
I don't think I took any renegades during this.
There was a renegade trigger towards the end where the Dolatross is trying to still keep talking, and I did that, and I just used throw your hands on the table, and you're like, we're doing this, it's done, get us access. Because that's how I felt as Shepard in that moment. I was just like, we're not arguing over the lives of living creatures. We're going to rescue them and save this entire species. You're not going to keep running your mouth, essentially.
More appreciation for Victus, though, because when he finds out that the Krogan women are being held at this camp, he gets upset. He's just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yep.
Is this true? And I think for Victus, he actively is upset that civil rights are being abused.
Yeah. I think the only one in the room at this point is the Dolatross, who's trying to, like, look on the bright side or say that it's necessary.
Yeah. The Dolatross is the worst. She tries to call us a bully, and I'm just like, fuck you. You commit war crimes.
So yeah, and so after we have this conversation, then it's time to hit the road. Time to head to Sur'Kesh, where the Krogan women are being kept, and of course, like, we don't get access, we don't get allowed to land. We're denied the landing rights because I think things are moving slowly. And of course, Rex, without thinking, is like, well, they can't stop a Krogan airdrop. Like,
that's my favorite phrase.
I really love that interaction because he does that, and Shepard is just like, Rex. Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, I got ahead of myself a little bit, though. We didn't talk about who everyone took on this mission.
Oh, yeah.
I took Edie and James. And there's a moment on the ship where Edie questions something that Rex is doing. And Rex just looks at her and goes, who are you? and clearly Joker hasn't taught you about Krogan at all, because you don't know what you're talking about. It's pretty funny. But who did you guys bring?
I brought Garrus and Liara because...
I know why.
Well, okay, that was a little metagamey. Like, I thought about that. I was like, I don't want to take them just because of that metagaming moment. Uh-huh. So I thought it through a little bit more. And looking at the people in my squad, I thought, who would Rex feel most comfortable if I brought with me? Who would he trust to do this very important thing that has to do with saving his entire race? Yeah, it's probably going to be the people he's known the longest. So I brought Garrus and Liara, which I think was a really good decision because we get a lot of really good interactions with them on the ship. Like, there's plain affection between Rex and Liara. Like, there's, like, this weird kind of flirtation going on between the two of them. And, like, there's that friendly rivalry between Rex and Garrus because of the Krogan-Turian rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the playthrough that I was watching also had Liara and Garrus, and yeah, it just felt like, oh, we've got the old gang back together. We're all just shooting the breeze. It was great.
I had thought about that, but honestly, the reason I brought James is A, because I know in the past I haven't, like, there's a metagame level. I haven't brought James a lot in the past, and I like James a lot, and I want to bring him along to see what he'll say. But also, he has expressed on many separate occasions when we've talked about the Krogan that he wants to meet a Krogan. And then when we specifically mentioned Rex in the past, he's like, that's a Krogan I'd like to meet. And so I wanted him to get to meet this character this person that he admires this person that he seems to admire already. I think it would have been fun. And then I just brought Edie because I just feel safer with Edie around, to be 100% honest.
All right. That's fair.
But yeah, so the shuttle arrives. We have a Krogan airdrop. It doesn't go well.
What I also love is that one of the Solarians responding to it is like, we have an unauthorized landing.
Rex is a ship.
He's not sure what else to refer to it as.
Yeah.
This particular mission had a lot more humor than previous missions, I feel.
Yes, I would agree. Also because Rex is a very sarcastic character who has a strange sense of humor. But yeah, so we arrive and Rex is going to take them on, and then there are sniper lasers on him, and he stops. And then finally, someone comes running to be like, hey, no, wait, stop. Everybody stop.
I forgot that Rex is biotic.
Oh, yeah.
He uses his biotics to throw those people against the wall. I was like, oh shit, I forgot you could do that.
Yep. He is bionic.
You're very dangerous to have around.
I mean, even without biotics.
It's true.
Like, it's just worse now.
Well, right. It's easy to forget because we spent so much time with Grunt in game 2, and Grunt doesn't have biotics. Grunt is just a soldier.
And in the first game, like, I don't know, what abilities do your squad mates have? You can't even tell because, like, the combat in that game is just so wonky.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, totally.
I have in my notes a girl worth dying for.
Yep.
For my own amusement.
But as you said in the beginning, things go sideways. But before that happens, like Rex is taken into quote unquote custody, so you can explore the base and see the Krogan women and see that the Krogan women are okay, and like start this process of releasing them.
Yeah, we find out that the reason that the women were brought here is because they were very sick. Their immune systems were severely compromised by Malin's experiments, and they were brought there to stabilize and to get better and healthier.
Yeah.
Is that the only reason?
Probably not.
Almost certainly not.
Is it a diplomatic reason to give me?
Yes.
Sure. Like, that is probably the best reason you could give me. Do I believe you? Not necessarily. Great.
No.
But I do take a minute to talk to Rex before I go and proceed. And it's just...
that conversation is so good.
It's so good!
It's a great conversation, and like how the different characters interact and like how Rex interacts is like... Because Rex in the second game, we didn't get a lot of time with him, and when you did explore conversations, it sounded like Rex, but he was still kind of more noble in that on that throne in that position. Whereas here, he's combat Rex. He's much more himself because he's by himself trying to save the women of his people, and it's nice to see this old friend again in his truest form.
I just imagine two little Rex action figures, one wearing a crown and the other one has a gun.
Yes.
To differentiate between King Rex and Combat Rex.
Yes, exactly. With shotgun firing action and Krogan drop ability.
Oh my god.
We're just hanging out with our old friend who likes to, casually talk about killing and eating his captors.
Yes. Every time he makes a reference to like eating a Solarian, it shows one of the Solarians just like twitch, just like, I don't like you, I hate you, you're the worst, you're the worst prisoner we've ever had.
Yeah, the first time he says it, Edie pipes up and goes, Your friend has a strange sense of humor. And Rex just laughs and goes, yeah, you could say that.
Garrus and Liara just don't even respond. They're just like, yeah, okay. When you bring up, like, who's your man on the inside? Rex is like, I can't tell you because they're listening. Obviously, they're right in front of us. But you would think the Shadow Broker would have that information.
Yes.
It's a shame I don't know him or her.
He totally knows. He knows.
Of course he knows. And Liara is just like, I'm sure the Shadow Broker was very busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I had forgotten who it was. Like, I knew who it was, but I didn't know if we would see him again this soon or not. And we'll get to that in a minute. The man on the inside.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking about the Shadow Broker. I was like, you
No.
know who that is.
No, but we did get like Chekhov's Yahg here.
We did.
We did get Chekhov's Yahg. That is the best.
Oh, that's the name of this episode.
Is Chekhov's Yahg. Yeah,
Chekhov's
it absolutely
Yahg.
is. Write it down.
I have an additional couple of quotes because they were just too good for me to let them go by. Rex had a really poignant one. My people have spent too much time selling ourselves out as mercenaries. Then Garrus, like, takes a dig at him about, like, will you ever let us forget about the Rachni Wars? Well, last time I was at the Citadel, I didn't see a Turian statue in your honor. Oh, just wait till this war is over. And then we meet Major Kirrahe again.
Yes.
At least I do.
He's such a doll.
I love
He is.
him. When will I get my Solarian romance? I would romance the heck out of Kirrahe.
Same. Yeah. I do like how during this conversation with James in your party, when Rex was doing one of his boisterous things, James is like, hey, Rex, once this is all over, we should go a few rounds. I think I could take you. And Rex just laughs and goes, this human shepherd, I like him. Which was nice to see because, like, clearly James, and it's why I brought James had so much respect for Rex already. Like, I'm saying right now when we go to the next Krogan mission, I'm going to bring James again because James seems to just have a genuine, like, it's born out of this machoism, but I think it still gets to the heart of who James is, that he does find a respect for these really great soldiers who are really tough in a scrap. And I like exploring that. It's wholesome machismo, which you don't see a lot of in games.
Yeah, but has he ever like headbutted a rival Krogan chieftain?
I mean, no, he hasn't, but you know.
He just needs more opportunities.
I think James and Grunt are secretly long lost siblings.
I mean, I could see it.
Same energy.
Same energy.
Headcanon accepted.
When I went over to talk to Major Kirrahe, Garrus just like comes in like, I am so happy to see you again.
Yeah.
Please shake my hand. I was just like, are you okay?
Clearly, there's some admiration here.
Do you need a moment?
A room,
Do you want to
maybe?
stay here while we go downstairs? That's fine.
I love that Kirrahe saves our asses in the combat section of this. He's such a great character that we don't get a lot of. And I remember saying that when we revisited him on Vermeer in the first game for the podcast, that like I have a respect for this character that I don't know I registered the first time around with this game. He's just so charismatic, especially for Solarian, because a lot of the Solarians we meet in this game aren't. I think him and Morden are the most charismatic ones we've met.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly with Morden because he's odd in the best way, whereas Kirrahe is just boisterous and charismatic, and I love it.
Speaking of Morden, we find out who our Solarian on the inside was, and lo and behold, it was Morden.
Surprise, surprise.
Yep, as I pointed out in our Morden episode in Mass Effect 2, in this game, he is played by a different voice actor, and it's funny because in the first time I ever played 3, I didn't clock it, but because I had that knowledge going in, I can hear the difference in his voice. It's minor. It's clearly an homage performance, but it's different, and I still don't quite know why they switched voice actors, what the reason was, but I definitely noticed it this time, which I had not in the past.
Something that I thought of as they were kind of, rehashing like talking about the how we got to this point for this mission, that like, oh yeah, all of these Krogan women were like part of the like illegal study, you know, that was being done, and you know, and now they're here on Sur'Kesh, and it got me thinking, like, okay, we had a big decision at the end of that mission in Mass Effect 2, right, where we could either like destroy the research or keep it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that
Yes.
is correct.
Yeah.
That's actually the episode you were on.
Right. Yeah. Clearly, I was taking notes. But like, it got me thinking, like, okay, what kinds of big differences are there in this mission in Mass Effect 3? Like, what were the repercussions of that choice in Mass Effect 2? Because like this mission happens no matter what, right?
Yes, it does. The difference becomes like just flavor text, really, because you can say to Morden, like, what about the data that we saved? And Morden goes, like, it was helpful. It wasn't complete.
Yeah.
Like, I saved it and I used it, but it didn't, like, just guarantee me a cure. Like, I still have to work on this shit.
It's too bad that, like, yeah, it wasn't a bigger difference. Because, like, a lot of these choices that feel super, like, meaningful and important and material in the moment, due to the constraints of, like, okay, we are playing a video game and it's really hard to write multiple branching storylines like that. You know, it does... It makes me kind of wish that we were playing this game, like, 10 years in the future when, like, maybe there will be more possibilities that, like, game developers can put in.
For sure. I mean, who knows if we ever get this fictional remaster that I still don't believe is real, maybe they'll add more stuff to this or more flavor. What I do appreciate about this section when we're walking through and we're talking about the Krogan women and that only one survived instead of multiple, even though they arrived with multiple, every time Morden has to talk about the Krogan women, the process, Malin, he is so grief-stricken. Like, it's such a 180 from the Morden that we were trying to convince this was the right thing to do. Like, this is like we were talking about Jack in the last mission. There's so much character development here, just in how Morden delivers this conversation and is talking about the trials and tribulations and how hard he tried to save them. And I love it. I love his development. I love Morden is one of my favorite characters, and I could just feel the emotion in his voice with every word that he speaks here, which is really great.
Yeah, he was getting pretty emotional by the end of the Tuchanka mission in Mass Effect 2. You know, when he was like discovering how like that one of his own students had done all of this, and he was like, this isn't right. What the hell are you doing? You know? So yeah, like that this feels very appropriate for his arc.
Yeah. We do meet the survivor of the experiments, who we later are informed is named Eve. I'm just going to call her Eve throughout this mission because I'm not calling her Unknown Krogan. We meet Eve, and immediately she's very different from other Krogan that we've met. She's very serene. She's very somber. The first thing she says to you is, "Are you here to kill me?"
And like that cut me like a knife, that line, because like she says it so plainly. Like she must have just felt death around every corner for years, and you feel it in that moment.
But it doesn't sound resigned.
No.
Like, I think if you were to respond saying, "Yes, I am," she'd be like, "Good fucking luck."
Yeah. It's definitely, there's a hardness to it, but there's pain to it too.
And they underscore this scene with this is where the track I think it's called "The Last Hope for the Krogan" starts, which is absolutely one of my favorite tracks from the Mass Effect 3 soundtrack. I'm not going to acapella for it for you.
But yeah, and you only get to exchange brief words with Eve before shit goes really sideways.
Yep. So an alarm starts going off. You have to like proceed to the elevator and whatever. As soon as the elevator doors open, there is a bomb.
Yep.
And me, sitting there in front of the TV said, "Oh shit," while Garrus also said, "Oh crap."
Oh shit. Yeah.
It's like, I'm glad we're the same person.
Yeah, James had the same line. Like immediately as soon as the door opens, James goes, crap, and then boom. And
Yeah.
I don't think that was
Explosion.
ever like addressed in the mission. Like, where did that bomb come from? Who put that there? How did that happen?
Cerberus and whoever their inside person was,
Yeah.
because Cerberus moved on this real fast. My guys speculated that they had someone on the inside who was possibly indoctrinated, because
Yep.
getting a genophage cure for the Krogan only really hurts the Reapers. If Cerberus is standing against it, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that must be something that's addressed later in the game because it wasn't addressed by the end of this mission.
Yeah.
I guess, kind of. I mean, Garrus and Liara talked about it during this mission for me, and they speculated about someone being on the inside working for Cerberus.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, like finding out like who was and what was, you know.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't think we ever find out who is on the inside.
I mean, I don't think we find out who is on the Solarian side, but like, I believe sword-wielding lackey to, who doesn't deserve a name, although I'm sure he has one.
Yes, he does. It's Kai Lang.
Kai Lang. No, Kai Lang is actually an interesting character, the brief amount of time we spent with him, but Kai Lang is obviously the Cerberus inside man who's communicating with these parties, but I don't know that we ever find out who the Solarian person is. But Kai Lang is the puppet master for a lot of the stuff that happens in this game. We'll find out later.
Well, you're using a lot of terms that I wouldn't say are accurate for Kai Lang.
Okay.
I wouldn't call him a puppet master. I wouldn't call him an inside man. He is more like an attack dog.
Oh, yeah. All right. You're correct. But he's probably the point of contact, I think, to some degree.
I actually don't know about that necessarily. I think he coordinates some attacks, but we don't really know which attacks. Like, one attack we are 100% certain of. We don't know about this one.
That's fair.
It's kind of hard to, be busy like coordinating all of these different things when you're also busy like running around flashing your swords at people.
That's a good point. You make a good point. It's just that the Elusive Man has no Miranda now, so who's the new Miranda anyway?
We get the Chekhov's Yahg
Yes.
running through the hallway. And my favorite interaction, which is why you thought that I made a meta choice.
Yep.
There goes the next Shadow Broker. Could have sworn he was muttering to Sony the whole time. Liara saying, "Not funny." Me sitting in front of the TV. Very funny,
Very
actually.
funny.
I think you would like to reevaluate that because it's very funny.
It's funny that you say that Liara says it's not funny, which I knew she did, because Shepard, when it happens and you don't have Liara, Shepard still says, "There goes the next Shadow Broker," and Edie immediately goes, "I don't think Dr. Tzioni would find that very funny." Because of course Edie would know that, because Edie has all of the files
Right.
on all of the missions and stuff.
And she knows what happened in game 2, obviously.
Right. And so I'm curious. I'm curious what happens in that mission if you bring two people who have no idea what you're talking about, like James and Javik or whatever. Like, I'm curious how that goes down. Like, it probably falls like a lot of my jokes in real life fall, where I say something snarky and then everyone else just looks at me and goes, "What?"
We heard you. We just didn't think it was funny.
Like hard relate.
But yeah, I love that moment so much. It's one of my favorite comedy. It's so dumb and so predictable, but it makes me laugh out loud every time.
Yeah, it's very good. There are a whole bunch of Varen just like in containment cells, and I'm like, look at all my dog friends.
Yeah, later on when you're fighting through, some of them get loose and just attack Cerberus and leave you be, and it's like, yeah, get him.
What good boys.
It did make me start wondering, like, okay, I know that they've talked briefly about like what the purpose of this facility is, but like this is a really strange collection of creatures that they have here.
Yeah, what they do is they like monitor evolutionary changes. So it's possible that these specific Varen were undergoing some different evolutionary path, or there was some kind of anomaly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unclear. I mean, you're right, Ian. We never get like a clear as day, like, here's what we do here. We don't get like the Mr. Science.
They would
tour.
never tell us.
Yeah.
They have an announcement going off when you first land saying, "We have guests. Do not talk about sensitive information."
It's just like, all right, I see how it is.
When we get through the first checkpoint, we have another run-in with Kirahi, and he introduces a very good weapon. Before we played this, when I was getting ready, my husband said to me, like, "Oh, are you excited for, like, this gun that you definitely love?" And I could not remember what he was talking about for the life of me. It was like, "I'm sure you're right. I probably do love this gun. I don't remember what it is, though."
Yeah. The best part about with that gun, though, is that James immediately goes, "I got to get me one of those," after that scene.
Garrus says something very
Garrus
similar.
"How do I not have one of those?" "Well, buddy, it's because you're a sniper. I'm the one with the pistols." Yeah. Like, recognize your place in this relationship.
I did make a major tactical change this time through. I switched from SMGs to pistols, so I have a shotgun and a pistol now, with still 200% reload time or cooldown, whatever nonsense.
So you got to play with the Scorpion?
A little bit, yeah.
I like it. The downside I feel to it is that oh god, what's the word that I'm looking for? The rate of fire is not very frequent.
Yeah, it's low.
So it kind of slows things down in a way, but if you combo it just right, ooh, chef's kiss. So good. So good.
It was very funny watching the person whose recording I was watching. Like, they had a powerful enough gun that, like, whenever these Cerberus agents are, coming in on their little jetpack boots and they're about to land, there's this really generous, like, 2-second long period where they're still landing, but they are now valid targets. And it's just like watching this person just take out all these soldiers before they have any chance to do anything. I was like, yep.
That's what I do.
You've won this game.
It's exactly what I do. I'm just like, pop, you're dead. Pop, okay. I just keep moving through them.
Yeah, I do the same thing, except instead of popping them off, I wait till one lands and he's a valid target. I charge, and then I wait half a second, and then I do my aura that explodes, and then just bodies fly in every direction.
Yeah, because they always like land in groups of 3.
Mm-hmm. And I always pick the one in the middle, like bowling.
Eve has a very funny line when we're talking about hopefully Rex will be there. Rex can't keep his hands off a fertile female. He'll be there.
Like, Rex already has a reputation, which, of course he did. We knew he did.
I think she knows him.
Yeah, I believe so, too.
It's just the way that she talks to him. It just feels like they've interacted before.
Mm-hmm. When she said that, I just had a moment where I was like, ... mood?
Uh-huh.
There's a moment where everything is stuck and there's an Atlas to fight, and Morden's just trying to kick at the door, and he's completely trapped.
And he's just mad, like he throws his arms up. He's just frustrated. Yeah, this is another one of those moments where the cinematography is really great. Like the Rex yelling that something's incoming, and then it cuts to the skies. It shows this Atlas just falling out of the sky, pretty much plummeting, and then hits the ground and like lifts itself. It was very kind of MCU mech. Like, I think of it was neat. I think of Ironmonger from the first Iron Man movie, like at the end of the movie. Like, it felt very much like it had that weight. It was pretty cool.
I think Titanfall was also coming out around the same time that Mass Effect 3 came out, so it felt very like zeitgeisty.
Yes.
Also, if we hadn't already seen Atlases a whole bunch of times, this probably would have been a lot more intimidating.
Right, exactly.
There was another Eve moment that really hit me when she said, "This isn't your problem. You don't know me." And Shepard responds with like, "But I would like to get to know."
But I'd like to.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that's me. There it is. I'm in this scene."
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, that's the Paragon response.
Also, there is a moment where everything is settled, all Cerberus is down, Eve is being let out of containment.
Oh, yeah.
Morden is standing there offering his hand, like, "I'm so happy that we can, like, go do science together now." And Rex walks up and, like, shoves him out of the way.
And then puts his hand out, which Eve also ignores, and then does my favorite thing in the whole mission. 2 more Cerberus goons land and she grabs the gun out of Rex's hand, she pops them both, and then slams it into Rex's chest, and he's dumbfounded. And it was just chef's kiss.
Rex is in love. So good.
It's so good.
It was just all very good. I love Eve. She's amazing. I can't wait to talk to her in the next mission. Post-mission, we have a conversation with Hackett, and he's being weirdly suspicious about Cerberus, and for a second, I thought he was going to accuse me of something.
Yeah. Like, we've been through this. Not with them anymore. Don't pull a Caden. Don't do that.
Like, how did Cerberus know to be there? I don't fucking know.
If we knew, we wouldn't have got hit by that bomb.
Exactly. And then and then we also find out from Hackett about the Project Crucible, which is the big fucking thing being built. As Lewis Black yells about in one of his comedy specials, build a big fucking thing. Well, they're doing it. They're building a big fucking thing.
It's a good thing it's simple and elegant. Otherwise, we'd be screwed.
Oh, God. That line, I'm just like, why? But again, it cuts out to then it goes to Hackett's view, and you see the scope of the thing, and it's a cutscene, and it looks really cool. It's like awe-inspiring.
Do you think the Protheans like left us some IKEA directions on how to build this thing?
Exactly.
I mean, if they're IKEA directions, then we might actually be screwed.
Yeah, it's true. I don't speak Swedish.
IKEA directions can be confusing sometimes.
I'm sensing we've opened some battle scars.
Why can't you just be explicit in your directions?
You know, a childhood full of building Legos like definitely prepared me for IKEA furniture. Which is, you know, Denmark, Sweden. Maybe there's something there.
We do have a brief conversation also with Victus and Rex. Rex yelling about how we need the genophage now, and Victus trying to convince him that they should help first and then get the genophage. And Rex is like, no deal. We agreed to genophage. We're getting a genophage cure, rather.
Yeah, their fight is just like bolstering and like men being men and men being stupid and annoying. That's all it is to me. I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And Morden's just like, I'm gonna go now.
And get started.
I'm gonna go hang with my friend.
Oh, he does say, oh, and I'm going to need a male sample as well. And Rex is just like, you're looking at it.
Gross.
I did love, like, Morden trying to explain to Shepard, like, well, it's going to take some time, and this is why, and I'm going to tell you all of the things that I need to do, and it's, you know...
It's complicated. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. It's fine. We don't need to talk about it.
And I was like...
You have shit to do.
Like, that is something that I totally do in conversations. I'm like, okay, but, like, in order to understand this thing, you're going to need all of this context.
And I've definitely been the person who's like, I get it. I don't understand it, but I get it. Fine, moving on.
I ship Morden and Eve.
Yeah.
100%. That is my ship. And then we close out with both Victus and Rex having private, sensitive missions that they don't want to talk about in front of each other.
It's just so annoying.
Because they're dumb, whiny babies.
Yeah, and we'll find out more about those missions in the next episode.
I feel like that mission was short. I know we talked for like an hour, but the mission wasn't that long.
It took like half of the mission to get to the combat, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just very, I don't want to say that it was very talky because it didn't feel that way. It was more of a cinematic experience than it was a combat experience.
Yeah, it was pretty streamlined, which is why I think it feels so fast. Like, I enjoyed the mission overall, and I like this mission because it sets up some big set pieces. But I think because the last few missions have been mostly combat throughout and had lots of, like, meat and took more time, this felt shorter. But I don't think it was, by the average of mission standards, that short. I think it felt somewhere in the middle of, like, between too long and too short.
Yeah, the fact that there was even combat in there felt like, I mean, because this is a video game, of course it was necessary, but like narratively it didn't really feel like it tied into anything much.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah, it didn't really add anything to the narrative.
yeah, ooh, Cerberus, they bad guys. Have you heard?
Right, exactly.
Why do they even care about this? We don't know. We don't get a resolution to that.
No, yeah. They might be, you know, setting up more for later, but we'll find out more later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I actually asked Ian and we usually ask this at the beginning of the mission, but I'll ask at the end because we make the rules. Why did you choose this mission of the missions that were available?
Because I thought it was a different mission. I thought this was the other Morden mission from later in the game.
Nope, you fucked up.
I did. But it's okay. It's a good mission.
It is a good mission.
And it builds straight from the last episode that I was on in this, in this show.
It does.
So if somebody wants to
directly relevant.
just do like, the Ian R. Buck specials, like it'll make sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm going to see who has that mission so you know who to glare at.
Let's not put people on blast. I feel like that's unfair.
I mean, it's Ian's fault for not claiming it sooner.
That's true. That is
I
true.
honestly,
I'm putting Ian on blast.
Since I don't know what that mission's name is, I don't even know if it was claimed yet or not when I was offered.
Right.
Case has it. It's priority Tachanka.
Yeah, because it's the mission that takes place on Tachanka with the tanks and the driving and the nonsense.
Yep.
And
the big worms.
And the big worm.
The big worm. But yeah, so that was that. Fandom Corner?
Yeah. And I actually have something to say at the start of a Fandom Corner for once, which is
exciting. Gasp! My world is upended.
Was it the previous episode that we promoted this Fandom Corner item?
I can tell you if you give me a minute.
I can. So I bought something from Studio Scorpion on Etsy, which is an Etsy shop that makes masks and other garments. They had an N7 face mask for our COVID times that looked essentially like the N7 hoodie and the N7 shirt. Like it's, an N7 patch on one side and then the white and red lines on the other side, and it's all black. And it's a cloth mask. And I bought one because I've been using disposable masks for a while. I also had a friend who made me some masks out of materials they had, but they are not designed to be worn as much as I've been wearing them and wash them as much as I've been washing them. So I wanted something from a professional garment maker. And this N7 face mask was too good to pass up, considering I have an N7 leather jacket, and I can essentially now in COVID times be complete Commander Shepard. And it's comfortable. It's great. The material feels nice on my face. It's not irritating. I highly recommend it. They didn't have a lot left in stock when I bought it. It was something like they had 6 in stock and they were in 23 carts because Etsy will tell you that. And so I bought it immediately when I saw that. But it's great. If there's still any in stock, I highly recommend it. It's Studio Scorpion. And it should be in the show notes for the last episode. Was I correct?
Yes, you are correct. We talked about this in the Grissom Academy episode. We talked about Tia Verde and Studio Scorpion.
So if you go to the show notes for that episode, but I think if you also search Studio Scorpion on Etsy, you can find it that way, because I believe that's how I found it, because I didn't have the link in front of me. So anyway, that's my little bit of personal Fandom Corner for y'all.
You heard it here, folks. Fandom Corner has paid off.
It has.
It's not illegal for you to put the same link into Fandom Corner for this week as well. Since there's follow-up.
I mean, we will.
We will.
But we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Ian, let us do our thing.
Quiet you. Don't be logical. Nobody asked you.
I have a couple of things to talk about this week. One is something that neither of us are ever going to buy because it's like $200, I think. But it made me go, holy shit. It's a Mass Effect N7 edition inspired ring with ruby crushed opals, titanium core, epoxy stripes. Like, it is an N7 stripe. It is beautiful. And it is $240.
Yeah.
Normally it's $300.
It's gorgeous, and considering the materials, $240 sounds about right. It doesn't sound unreasonable.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, no. I already have a wedding band. I am already married.
Yeah, word.
But that said, if my spouse and I ever entertained like alternate wedding bands, like we wanted to change it up, I mean, this is nerdy, and I would love it. But that said, like if you're listening now, click on the show notes, look at it. It's gorgeous, and if you are marrying someone who is a Mass Effect nerd, buy them this ring. See, just do it.
This would be a nice wedding band.
Yeah.
I like, John's going to look at this later and just be like, why didn't we get this?
Yeah.
2 years too late.
Exactly. For you.
It's true. It is 2 years. But yeah, so I just wanted everybody to see that beautiful thing. But also, a little bit more within my reach, I'd like to talk about Haunt Your House. We've definitely talked about them before. They do these wonderful Mass Effect theme pins with different characters, and some of them have different quotes. And they have two that I've never seen before. One is currently in stock. It is a galaxy map pin. It's really pretty. It has a little Mass Effect mass relay in the center. And then they have a pre-order for a Varen pin, and it says, "Good Varen."
Oh, I love it.
And I'm going to pre-order it. It's so cute.
Yeah, the Galaxy Map one is beautiful, and if anyone's been following my social media, you'll know I have finally put all of my enamel pins in a shadow box, and I bought the Sanshi, Garrus, and Morden enamel pins based on their plushie counterparts. These are great. I might have to get them. Also, just outside the fandom a little bit, they have a bunch of really great Umbrella Academy pins, including...
Yes, I noticed that.
Several of Diego Hargrave's. They also have a Valkyrie Pride cape pin, which is really great.
I don't get that reference.
Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. I was just like, I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the shop is great. They've got some great stuff. Definitely check it out. But yeah, I may have to get that Galaxy Map pin, because that Galaxy Map pin would also be great like lapel pin for like a suit, like for a fancy event if we ever all go out again, which I'm not holding my breath on that one.
Oh, sad.
I love stuff like the Galaxy Map pin and the wedding band that are like, subtle enough that they can pass as like, a cool looking, good looking thing. But then like if you're in the know, then you're like, oh, I recognize that. I know what that is.
Yeah.
And then you made a friend.
I feel like I wouldn't be doing our due diligence to a sect of our listeners by not mentioning they also have a Cullen, Dorian, and Fenris
Yeah, I was
pin.
about to say.
So like they have those as well.
There is a Solus pin, but there is no Anders pin, and I feel oppressed as a result.
Oh, they also have I just saw the Blackwall Tom Rainier pen. I missed that. Anyway, again, go to Haunt Your House. Great shop.
Where's my terrorist boyfriend?
Amazing. Thank you for finding these and continuing to feed my enamel pin habit that I have always had, but now is way more organized.
Mine is not. Mine is entirely on my denim vest.
Mine were, and then I had to send everything I ever owned to a professional cleaner because my house caught on fire. So now nothing is on my jacket anymore. Anyway.
There's only so long I will let you use that to silence me.
Fair enough. I think I'm still within that advisory period.
I feel like you get 3 more months out of it.
Okay, that's fair.
Use them wisely.
I won't. I never do.
Okay. Reviews?
Yes. I will go first. We have 3 reviews we're going to read. It's possible we read this one already. Neither of us can remember.
I don't have it noted anywhere. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So in case...
Please don't hate us.
Please don't hate us. Rachel Lucas, you are amazing. And you wrote us a review on Facebook. And so I'm going to read it now. And if we read it already, then we're reading it again. Go check out Rachel Lucas. She's amazing. Very funny and insightful podcast. I see things I've never considered in my prior playthroughs of the Mass Effect series, and I also enjoy the way we're able to come to terms that Kaidan Alenko is a decent character and that basic human squad-mate professional Marshmallow is not a bad thing. I love listening to this to get through my workday. Well, I am so happy, Rachel, that we help you get through your workday. Thank you so much for writing us that review.
Ian, do you have any interest in reading one of the reviews?
If I can scroll up quickly, yes.
Well, I wasn't going to make you do it. I wanted to ask if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Would you like to read the longer one or the shorter one?
I can take... I've already got the shorter one pulled up. So.
Okay. Do it.
So this one is from iTunes, I assume, and it looks like the title is A Great Place to Hang Out on the Citadel, probably. 5 stars. Great hosts, great guests, and a solid podcast that enjoys recounting what they loved about Mass Effect, while also not being afraid to both laugh about and critically think about some of the missteps. There are many laughs to be had, and I must admit I have started up a new game because of this podcast. So thank you, thank your guests. This has been a nice place to land on the internet. I should go.
Amazing. I am of two minds. I think of this podcast as like a companion piece to a new playthrough, but I also kind of really love every time someone tells me, God damn it, I started a new playthrough because of you. I wear that as a badge of honor.
And the person who wrote that review is named Reflex123.
Thank you, Reflex123.
Also not sure if we read that one already, but hey, just a reminder, people like us. One more review. This one is, I don't have the title because it wouldn't fit on my screen. It's by Ari Momo. I really hope I said that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. They gave us 4 stars, and the review says, as someone who's been obsessed with Mass Effect and super involved in the fandom for years, I always wanted a podcast like this. I like that it goes mission by mission so we can comb through the games together. Their discussions on gameplay mechanics and gaming conventions is insightful. Okay, now for a controversial topic. I often struggle with relating to other Mass Effect fans because I'm not a huge Garrus fangirl. Don't get me wrong, I like the guy, but my femshep is always closer to the characters that the fandom often doesn't appreciate. Kaidan, Ashley, Kasumi, Thane, etc. I was worried that these hosts would write off these mostly human characters, which they sort of did initially. But after some time, you can tell they really start to appreciate Softboy Kaidan, and I was grateful for the discussions about Ashley's racism, even though I didn't always agree. My biggest critique is I wish they had gone into these playthroughs with more intent to roleplay, as in playing Shepard as separate from themselves, as an actual character. I would have liked it if one had gone more renegade so we had more to contrast, but I understand that's not the framing they wanted to go with. I just would have found that more interesting than playing as essentially themselves because their Shepards ended up being so functionally similar. Thanks so much for an interesting and fun podcast. I really am so grateful that the fandom is still alive and making things like this. That was a really nice and insightful review. Thank you so much for writing it. I understand what you're saying about wanting a little bit more contrast, and Matt and I often say that as well. And that might actually be something that we address when we leave the Mass Effect games. But what was really important to us, as you acknowledged, is we think about how we would act in these situations, and we're using Shepard as a vehicle for that. But over time, there is a little deviation between the two of us because Matt and I are 2 different people. We have similar values, but sometimes we approach things very differently.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it was a 4-star review and you told us why. You know, I think we're a 5-star podcast, but if you think otherwise, I'm glad. I'm always happy for constructive reviews that actually give us information, not one-line reviews that just call us out because you're not imaginative. So, in sincerity, thank you for this review this way. And even though you don't agree with the way we're approaching the game, I agree with everything that MJ already said, that we've realized the error of this as we're playing through it, but I think we're going to ride it out for all of the Mass Effect games as they are incredibly personal to us on a level unlike any other game. But if we do Dragon Age, which is what we've talked about the most, I think we will intentionally go in somewhat opposite directions, still playing to our personality, because then we can have a more diverse conversation.
We'll see as far as Dragon Age Origins is concerned. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. We will definitely talk about it, and we will definitely keep stuff like that in mind. Every time you say that we're a 5-star podcast, though, my first thought is 5-star podcast, 2-star humans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every time. I mean, it's true. We are definitely 2-star humans, but we're trying.
And
I've done a Renegade playthrough of the Mass Effect series once, and it was very emotionally draining for me. So, like, I don't blame you guys for not wanting to do that, you know, for a podcast. Like, now I'm obligated to stick with this terrible character.
Like, I just don't think it would have been emotionally healthy for either of us if we were to have approached it that way. And given the current state of affairs, it was probably the better decision for us to do it the way that we're doing, because when we get emotional, at least we're getting emotional about our own feelings and not about being forced to do something bad.
Yeah, and that said, I think regardless of the games that we play next, because that's still up for debate, I think that we've done in our Dawn Guard episode, we purposely chose 2 different paths intentionally so we could discuss the differences. And I think in further iterations of this podcast, there could be more mission isolated things like that to make those choices depending. But again, feedback like this is super helpful to us because ultimately now that we have a listenership who enjoys the show, as we evolve and as we eventually do get outside of Mass Effect, we want to take your thoughts, hopes, dreams, and all of that into consideration as we grow the show together. So thank you again for this and all of our reviews. And if you'd like your review read on this very podcast, write us one on iTunes, on Facebook, pretty much anywhere you can write a review, or send us an email with your review of the podcast, or that tell us about that, something you love or an episode you enjoyed. All that stuff we love reading on the show, and it is the best way to get first line interaction with us.
Oh God, we haven't received any emails recently, did we? I didn't even check. Oh no.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Not that I noticed. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I am going to guide us into the closing of our show. First of all, I am very excited. Very, very excited. Our next episode will be the Attic Traverse Krogan team, and with TikTok's very own history wizard, the incredible John Lestrange, who happens to be married to my co-host.
Did you hear me roll my eyes? Was everybody able to hear me when Matt was talking about how much he loves John? Because...
Yeah. But they know you do. You married him.
Yes, I did. Willingly. I made that choice.
As you were introducing him as TikTok's own, and I was like, who are we talking about? Who's coming on this show? Oh, it's John.
Yeah. It is John.
John has a huge following on TikTok. It's very important. It's part of his brand now.
I mean, he has a lot of claims to fame, including being a writer and a historian. But the thing that blew up for him was TikTok, and so be it. God bless him.
But
anyway, enough of. But what?
I was just going to say, John may have TikTok, but Ian, you have our hearts. Why don't you self-promote a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Ian Arbuck. I am a podcaster and an educator. I run a show called The Extra Dimension, which focuses on the ethical and social implications of technology. And if that sounds like your jam, if thinking deeply about why the genophage happened and how the Solarians could have approached that in a much more equitable and just way, then maybe my show is a thing that you'd be interested in. So currently on a little bit of a hiatus while I struggle to keep up with distance learning since I do teach at a high school, but we'll be back with new episodes sometime soon, January maybe.
There's nothing wrong with a hiatus.
Yep.
Nope.
And if you want to see me talking about bikes a lot, you can follow me on Twitter at Ian Arbuck.
It's true. You do talk about bikes a lot. Ian also did an episode of Side Quests.
Oh yeah.
About Gone Home, which was incredible, and you should go check that out under Fun and Games Pod as well.
Yay. So if you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. You can also find us at facebook.com/reignitepod or send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in the conversation. We have lots of post-episode chats. There's a whole channel devoted to keeping information from me on things that might spoil me, if you like doing that kind of thing. So yeah, certainpov.com. Go check it out.
I do plan on starting a betting pool when we begin Andromeda.
Uh-huh.
All about your reactions and who you end up romancing, if you end up romancing anyone.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. Anyway, Matt and I also work on some other projects. You can find me on Circle of Friendship and the Rob Thomas No Not That One Robcast. You can also find me on Archives of the Dragon, where we stream Changeling the Dreaming on Twitch. You can see me playing a punk rock selkie every Friday over at twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
I have a bunch of podcasts on the network as well, including Screen Snark, Fun and Games, which I mentioned just a moment ago, and then a show off the network, several shows off the network, Crash Chords Autographs, which is my interview series that I do and produce. And then, of course, Shut Up Evan is a show that I produce with the incredible Evan Ross Katz. As of when you're hearing this, our latest episode is with the incredible Jimbo from Canada's Drag Race. Jimbo is incredible, and that episode was so fun to record. I also do streaming myself. I stream Tuesday and Friday mornings, though that may change soon, and also on Sunday afternoons. I'm currently playing through the Dead Space series. Once I finish that trilogy, I will be returning to finally finish Dragon Age Inquisition, and then who knows from there, the sky's the limit. Also, Also, Certain POV is participating in Extra Life this year. ExtraLife.com. It's a charity to raise money for sick kids in children's hospitals. I will be streaming for 24 hours straight on N7 Day from 8 a.m. on 11/7 to 8 a.m. on 11/8. I will definitely be playing some Mass Effect during that time, but also lots of other games and raising money for sick kids. The donation link is on our Discord server, but maybe I'll include it in the show notes as well. If you can't give, sharing it helps as well. I'm really excited to do this charity again this year. It's a blast every year as I get delirious around the 23rd hour.
One year I will join you when I have the mental fortitude to plan that in advance, and maybe when I'm not also doing National Novel Writing Month.
That's fair.
And
that's totally fair.
I'm glad you specified when Inquisition will be returning home from the war, because at this point I'm going to be Inquisition before you.
Probably, yeah. It's just I ended up really enjoying the Dead Space series, which I started as a gag because I'm a coward. Mm-hmm. But playing horror games with an audience is actually a lot more fortitude instilling.
That's
it
true.
Makes me a little braver, and the story's actually very, very good. And so I want to finish out the trilogy. I swear I know how to speak professionally. I want to finish out the trilogy to see how it ends because I've really been digging it.
That's fair. We'd like to thank Red Spanx for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt, which you can find on Redbubble. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank Case Aiken, who constantly develops amazing shirt designs. As of today, we now have a demilitarized makeout zone design and a do what your space mom tells you design. And I am very excited to get a demilitarized makeout zone face mask. And pullover hoodie. Thank you, Case. You're amazing, and we don't deserve you. You can find all of those designs through certainpov.com or on Teespring. And we'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. Lastly, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Ian Arbuck. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Technology is ever evolving. It touches every part of our lives, both influencing and being influenced by society. I'm Ian Arbuck, and I know it's hard to stay on top of everything you need to know to live in this digital world. That's why, every month on The Extra Dimension, we explore a different aspect of the technological convergence. Find it on our website, thenexus.tv, or by searching for The Extra Dimension in your favorite podcast player.
Why, hello there, podcast friend. I'm Ash Blodgett, co-host of the podcast Let's Rewatch. Together with my co-host and Red Opera D&D campaign writer Pat Edwards, we made a short film in quarantine called Joining Call. And it's finally coming out. The film is the story of a group of people trying to get together to play D&D via a video chat. But all the usual quarantine issues get in the way, such as kids.
Daddy, is this Game of Thrones?
Bobby, what are you doing?
Daddy,
come on, it's bedtime.
Poor internet connections.
Thou must cast ye techno devils from thine magic picture box.
Couples at each other's throats.
I want to blow some ogres up with a fireball.
Why is your first instinct to always kill things?
And more.
Zoe, stop drinking!
Oh, that reminds me, I haven't had the boss yet!
The film basically takes a snapshot of what life is like right now through the lens of nerds. So join us on our quest November 20th over on my YouTube channel LaughStashTV for the film's premiere. You can get there by going to youtube.com/LaughStashTV. And that's stash as in S-T-A-S-H. Till then, I'll just be over here practicing my nat 20s. Ooh, critical hit.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.